Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie Rogers, and I'm inviting you all to tune in to my show, Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow, every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on clearsourceradio.com and iHeartRadio. Hey everyone, you are now listening to Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow on the Clear Source Radio Network. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. You're now listening to Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow on Clear Source Radio, where people inspire people. I am your host, Melanie Rogers. So, welcome back, and I hope you're having a wonderful week. Congratulations to the Patriots that I actually watched the Super Bowl game. It was a good game. You know, a lot of people were complaining that it was boring and such. I have to admit, I slept through part of it, but it had absolutely nothing to do with how interesting the game was itself. I was resting up. I'm a little disappointed, a little sad to say. I had random plans. Okay, let's start off here. You know that I've been concentrating on things like living in the moment and, breaking down self-imposed barriers and just doing without trying to control everything in life. And I've been doing a fantastic job starting last year mostly. So I randomly got a text from a friend of mine. He was a friend from high school. We call each other brother and sister because we share the same last name. And, of course, we grew up with our lockers next door to each other and such. So, anyway, he's a pilot. I'm a controller. Go figure. He'll text me when he flies in. He's actually what do you call it? For the, oh, my goodness, I can't think of the name of it. I actually wanted to put that out there for him, but I can't think of the name of the flight company or whatever that he works for, but he flies some bigwigs. To tell you the truth, he's had stories of some of the bigwigs out there privately and corporate. It's like corporate jet. That's it right there. So anyway, moral of the story is he texted me randomly on Super Bowl Sunday. I neglected to make plans for Super Bowl Sunday, and even though it's kind of intimidating being here in Atlanta, knowing that such a big event is going on, I am the type that will, get excited about, hey, we've got to be a part of it, whatever. But then I'll shy away from it and say, I just kind of want to stay in my home because there's going to be so much chaos and such. So in breaking free from that, I thought, how much fun would it be, since it's here in Atlanta, to actually go down there in Atlanta and, somehow be a part of it. So he texted me out of nowhere and said, I'm going to be at, and he told me the airport. So I got excited about that, and I'm like, okay, meet me. There's a restaurant at the airport, by the way, not Atlanta, but the an airport that he was going to fly into, a restaurant that I go to. I have friends there, and I go and visit them. So I was actually planning on going and visiting my friend who happens to work there. She's the bartender there. And so anyway, he happened to be flying in there, and I thought, oh my gosh, you want to talk about just synchronicity and everything else? I'm like, perfect. And then from there, we'll hang out, whatever. So needless to say, he was supposed to fly in, and he said that he was flying in friends of Tom Brady. Okay. So, of course, I was like, you better schmooze like you've never schmoozed before in your life and get us something. Like, get us some sort of party or some sort of introduction or something, because those moments pop up out of nowhere and you take advantage of that. I love it. So anyway, moral of the story is he was supposed to fly in, and we decided that we were just going to tell Uber to drop us off down by the Super Bowl, and we were going to find something to do. It was like, it's a Super Bowl Sunday. There's going to be parties. We're going to end up, who knows? Let's just live on the edge. And I thought, you know what? I didn't even think twice about it. I thought, yes, we're going to do this, and we're going to make memories. It's going to be so much fun, whatever. So so getting back to why I slipped through part of it is that my understanding was that he was coming in, he was going to land here at midnight. And I thought, okay, that's really flying by the seat of our pants, but okay, we'll do it. We got our signals crossed, and, I thought he was coming in. He wasn't sure if he was staying overnight or if he was on a flight back out. We miscommunicated. So I was taking naps during the Super Bowl, but I did see the good parts of it. I saw the third and fourth quarter, tell you the truth, and I actually enjoyed it. But unfortunately, we did. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, our signals did cross, and he was here, and I didn't realize it, and he was flying out at midnight. So I'm sitting here, I'm all ready to go. And he lets me know that he's getting ready to take off in like 20 minutes, that he had been here for a couple of hours. So, everything is meant to be as it is. So I'm not going to look into that too much, other than, who knows, maybe we would have gone down there and gotten mugged or something. Maybe that was in the stars for us. Maybe that's the reason why our signals crossed. Maybe, could have gotten into an accident, anything like that. But, I kind of do sit here and wonder, what could have happened? We could have gone down there just randomly, and you never know who we could have met, or, the time we could have had. So that's my Super Bowl story. Once again, congratulations to the Patriots. That is unbelievable. I mean, that's, it's great to at least be awake to watch a football game that basically kind of made history. Of course it did, with Tom Brady, winning 6 Super Bowl rings, being up there now with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Steelers is actually my second team, I guess. I've been really bad about watching football. I was a fanatic about football, and now, God, I just realized this. I was such a fanatic about the 49ers. But I thought about it recently. Actually, before we went down there, I started thinking about it. Like, when's the last time you really paid attention to football? And I just thought, well, the last few years I kind of veered away because, I just don't have cable, and whatever reasons that I had, but I kind of veered away and went in different directions. And then it hit me. I've been here in Georgia now for 18 years, 17 and a half years. I got here at the end of 2001. So yeah, 18 years. Whoa. I've been here for 18 years. And the last I was a fanatic was maybe 5 years into it. Not really a fanatic either. So I need to get back in there. I need to support my 49ers. Now, people will wonder, and a lot of people do wonder. They're like, okay, you're from Ohio, Northeast Ohio. Okay, Pittsburgh Steelers, that makes sense. But why on earth are you a 49er fan? Well, let me tell you, because we actually went to school with the DeBartolos, who own the 49ers. And Eddie DeBartolo actually owns a lot of that piece of Ohio. So I grew up going to the Southern Park Mall, where they sported nothing but Pittsburgh Steelers, because we're right there on the border of Pittsburgh, only an hour and a half away from Pittsburgh. So most people I know are either Pittsburgh or Cleveland fans. But believe it or not, most of the people I went to school with are Pittsburgh fans. But he also sported a lot of 49er gear, like the 49ers. Carmen Policy, who was the president of the 49ers, well, he's also a lawyer. My dad happened to know him because my dad's a police officer. To tell you the truth, my dad told me once that he's like one of the few lawyers. Being a police officer, you can understand this. So they kind of battle with lawyers who tend to get people off, where my dad tries hard to book them. Okay, so anyway, so nothing against lawyers, but my dad actually told me at one point that Carmen Policy was one of very few lawyers he had a lot of respect for. So they knew them. So it ended up being, there's a huge connection, and that's why technically I'm a 49er fan. And I need to get back in there. I need to start sporting my team. I need to really get in there. There was a time where I knew all of the different players and such. And I kind of crave that. Watching the Super Bowl yesterday, the parts that I watched, that excitement came back. So anyway, there's my story with the Super Bowl. All right, so past that, let me see. I have a show tonight, and there's a lot to it. A lot of it is stuff that I looked up. So, I'm going to give you my spin on this. Let me tell you how I started thinking about tonight's show initially. It is left brain versus right brain personality, dominance, and such. Now, you think left or right this day and age, and people think, oh, this could be a political show. We're talking, Republican versus Democrat and such. No, it has nothing to do with that. But I think it's interesting when we get into it. I'll probably talk about it. I think it might be kind of interesting. The mentality of like Republicans being right, the Democrats being left, and I don't know if that has anything to do with the brain personality types, but looking at it, I would think it would be opposite. So you think about it. So anyway, now what really actually started my brain flowing on this concept is I started thinking about how some people are very critical about mostly, and I will tell you, and this is from my experience, not saying that this is mostly the way it is. I'm saying that mostly what I have experienced or noticed is that it seems to be a lot of people who are more of a left brain personality type might criticize or judge people who are a right brain personality type. And now I didn't go into that initially. What I was thinking is how many people criticize the artistic type of people. An artistic type of people who are right-brained, those are the people who have lots of tattoos, who express themselves in certain ways. Okay, the left brain, very logical. Okay, so basically that's how it all started. I was thinking, I noticed, and I noticed this from many different people, so it's nobody in particular, but my surroundings. Now, I've been around both sides, very logical people, very artistic type people. Going into the paranormal world, which I, was a huge part of and still consider myself a part of, but I branched off into more the metaphysical, more inspirational, like keep it light person. I've really engaged the right part of my personality, also doing things like the acting class and the desire to do the dance and all this kind of stuff really made me tap into my right side personality when I lived a life of left brain logic, my job, air traffic control and all this. So that's what got me thinking, because I get really frustrated when I hear people stereotype, and this is exactly where it started, not just saying that tattooed people are, that is the definition of right brain personality, but hearing somebody automatically criticize somebody or judge them or look down on them because they have tattoos. That's what I heard it in a couple of different places to where all of a sudden my brain caught on to it. And I sat there thinking, I know people who are head to toe tattoos. All it means, the people I know, they're the kindest hearted. They're the advocates. They're the ones that stand up for animals. They're the ones that really put their heart out in there from what I see. But then they're judged by people, the logical people. So I started really thinking about that and started trying to understand. And it made me go deep inside thinking left brain, right brain personality types and how we all have a left brain, right brain, but we're dominant. A lot of people who are dominant on one side or another, okay? And how a lot of this has to do with me working on balance as well, okay? I've been working on balance in my life. Part of that goes back to my favorite, one of my favorites at this point, episode 22, defining and tackling Mel's bucket list, had a lot to do with left brain, right brain personality typing, okay? My left brain, my right brain. So that made me realize that I don't know if people, left brain, right brain, if they're dominant on one side or another because they need to practice balance, and if ultimately we are supposed to be balanced. I didn't look into it that much, the scientific or anything else, okay? But I started thinking about it and thought, is that a goal that a lot of people should have? Is that part of spiritual evolution and such, is to balance the left and right brain? Okay, should that be part of what we as humans do to better ourselves, is to balance the left and the right brain? Or are some of us just meant to be more left brain, and are some of us just meant to be more right brain? Because then that balances out the universe. If everyone was balanced, then of course the universe would be balanced out. Okay, if some people, we have people over here who are left brain, people over there who are right brain, maybe that balances things out, almost like men and women. We balance each other out, right? So isn't that an interesting concept? To me it was. So what I decided to do with that is look into and describe to you, and these are coming from many different sources. I will let you know the sources, and I'm basically going to read their articles, okay? But it opened my eyes a little more to the whole left brain, right brain, personality typing, and it made me realize that I, on my own, over the last few years, have been trying to balance my own left brain, right brain, because as I described in the episode 22, Defining and Tackling Mel's Bucket List, I realized that I was suppressing the right side of my personality, and that I have a huge right brain personality. But in my life, I, for whatever reason, felt like I was supposed to be that left brain person, the very logical, with the choices I made, choices in life that I've made, the personality that I had. Well, then all of a sudden, everything started kind of spilling out a little. And it's like, no, that's not me. That doesn't define me, just because in my mind, that was supposed to be my definition. That I have, just like suppressing emotions, just like suppressing feelings about certain things in life, eventually it bubbles up and comes up, just like having to heal wounds. And I look at it like that. I realize that it comes bubbling up. That suppressing that right brain personality type, that part of my personality, that's no good. In order for me to be a well-rounded person, it came bubbling up. Next thing you know, I'm like, I need to get out there and start expressing myself in that way. Okay, so does that ultimately mean that I will or have been judged the more I show my creative, my artistic, my spiritual, all those, my advocate or emotional side, whatever? How much do I get judged? And then I started thinking about that as well and realized that, yes, there are people who might have judged me along the way for looking at life the way I do. But basically, it might be because they just don't understand. Left brain people might really just not understand and be able to put themselves in the perspective or the shoes of right brain people. And it's the same way the other way around, okay? Now, the only reason I'm focusing on right brain people in this way as being the judged ones is because I hear that and I see that more. And I think that has more to do with the fact that I look at right brain people as heart people. They're the people who they're so consumed, I guess, with expressing their own emotions in what they feel and what they believe in and showing it through the arts. Basically, that's what they do. That I don't think they really, in general, now of course there's all exceptions, but I'm not sure that they really have the capacity to turn around and pay attention enough to judge people who are logical and such unless they're being judged. I don't think that they're pushed to that point. I think logical people might judge because they just don't understand, because they're logical. They're not up in the air like we are, like fairy. I think of fairies flying around up in the air, and I get it. So anyway, with that being said, that's the only reason I concentrate on that part. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read some of these articles. Now, this is going to be a long show because as I was looking into it, I got kind of deep into it, and I realized there's a lot to it, kind of like the shows that I had on your love assessment, also on your Briggs-Myers personality typing. There's something to this as well. Left brain, right brain personality typing. Now, I talked about this before too. How life is so interesting to me, and the more I'm looking into all this, it's very interesting to me. How cool would it be, once again, if I had really got into this and opened up my own dating site with really, really, really deep ways of hooking people up? like having to do with figuring out your personality, your Briggs-Myers personality typing, having to do with whether you're intuitive, whether you're judgmental, whether you're introvert, extrovert, all the things that the Briggs-Myers covers. Combine that with, your empathy level, which has a lot to do with the Briggs-Myers as well, but your overall empathy level, whether you're a narcissist versus an empath versus, just a highly intelligent, they call it highly, what is it called? Oh my goodness, highly intuitive person, highly sensitive, that's it, highly sensitive person, all that. Combine that as well with men are from Mars, women are from Venus, our personality typing there with, alpha versus, what is the other one? We have alpha men and alpha women, I guess. Are they beta? I don't even know. I know alpha. Everybody knows alpha. And now add that to the left and right brain personality typing. So, oh my lordy, there is so much to it. And that's what I find interesting. And I kind of really admire people who can just gravitate toward that other person and it works out perfectly. I sit here and I wonder if that was just in the mapping, the life map kind of thing. And that's going to be a future show as well, just like I said before about different souls and our storylines. And maybe we have so many different soulmates. Maybe we just have one and we meet them at different times. And in one lifetime, we may come together as actual couple because it works out perfectly. But in other lifetimes, maybe the smallest little offset interferes with that romantic connection, but makes us turn a certain direction in life. And I'll explain that when we have that show. So I'm getting really deep into it already. I have had a little coffee because I thought, this is going to be a long show. I need to stay awake. I need to stay focused. And there's a lot to it. So here we go. First, the first article here that I have pulled up here is left brain, right brain personality types. Okay, this is just a general, and this is one of 1,000 articles. Now, everything I read is going to be like one of 1,000 different articles and such about left brain, right brain. Now, they don't all actually, it's kind of like the Briggs-Myers, or not the Briggs-Myers personality typing, which I did another show, and it had... Oh my goodness, I can't remember which show I did. There was a show I know that I did, and looking it up, it had different articles, had different numbers of characteristics. Okay, so it all depends on what article you read. But so I just basically pulled up one I thought that was interesting. So I'm going to read through these just to give you an idea of left and right brain. The idea of this show, okay, in case I run out of time, in case I get so deep into this with these articles that, it's overwhelming. The idea, my intentions for this show, the outcome of this show, is for people to understand, including myself, because I find it fascinating, that we are left or right brain dominant. Okay, everybody's left or right brain dominant. I'm wondering how many people are balanced in that, where they're very logical and they're also very artistic in all the description that I'm going to talk about. But left brain, right brain personality typing. Now, part of what I want you to concentrate on is identifying yourself and also identifying if you have a pull to the other side like I did. If you've defined yourself based on left brain, right brain, and if that had to do with growing up, your family, or the school you went to, or the career that you went into for whatever reason, or if there is a reason why in your life you've always considered yourself that logical person or that artistic person, but it doesn't really resonate with you. This might also make people understand a little more about their children. Okay, I have people who have different kids, and they talk about them and they're not understanding them because I immediately identify saying, okay, it's because you are a left brain person. Obviously, your child is very creative and artistic. There's so many things that come into play with that, including how children learn. Now, one of those articles had to do with how children learn and how, I think it was left brain children who had a right brain pull, how they had harder time learning the way left brain people tend to learn. Now, I didn't pull up that article with this one because at the time I thought, well, this is only an hour show and I'm starting to get into so much stuff. I may go into that in the future, and that the idea of that show will be for for adults to understand their children a little better. That might actually help to really understand your children a little better. So otherwise, go and look that up for yourself, because it is really interesting. Their definition of left brain and right brain and how we learn. We all learn differently. And, there's different things that's going to pull different people. Starting in childhood, I think if I had a child right now, this stuff would be so fascinating to me, because I'd be identifying constantly and trying to identify if they're left brain, right brain, how they're learning, where their tendencies lie, where their love lies, where they're automatically flowing, and I would try not to disrupt that flow. Okay. So anyway, like I said, there's so much to it. I've narrowed it down, and I actually have 5 different sources, 5 different pages, okay, of stuff that I'm going to read. Another thing, I was talking about intentions, identifying it for yourself, who you are, and if you need to balance more, or if you're being pulled to the other side like I was being pulled more to the right brain side, going, why are you suppressing this? You're suppressing this like you would suppress an emotion or whatever. Also, to understand your children, understand your peers, understand your friends, understand your family a little bit more, okay? Because when we're thinking from a different part of our brain, we are actually thinking and looking at things completely differently. So to understand that somebody else is looking at things in a different way, we can understand a little more. They're not stupid, okay? They're not just argumentative. They don't see things the same way as we do. We don't see things the same way they do. So once again, it's putting ourselves in other people's shoes and looking at things from a different perspective, which is what the show's about, right? Okay. Other things I'd like you to get out of it is, ideas on if you want to tap into or work on balancing left brain, right brain, which I really want to do. And I think I'm pretty balanced, I think, because I can always see, I think that's part of the reason why I am able to do the show, for one thing, and why that's actually what the show's basically about, is seeing things from different perspectives. And I'm starting to think that that's because at some point I have balanced left and right brain. That's why it's hard for me to make a one definite decision on politics, one definite decision on anything religious wise or anything like that, is because I can always see all sides. I can understand all sides, and I believe that's because I'm properly tapped into my left and right brain. Okay, so that may be a goal for you. So these are all things I'm looking at as in my intentions on delivering this to you. Okay, so bear with me. Get, a notebook, if anything, if you want to write down notes, if anything, if you want to write down the sources, because I'm going to quote you the sources so that you can go and look it up and then go from there. Maybe make lists. I may do this myself. Make some lists and see where you fall and where your goals are. Maybe make this part of your resolutions or life goals or spiritual awakening or whatever you want to choose to do it. So we're going to start off right now with the definition, basically left versus right brain personality typing as per this source, this information source. It's personalityjunkie.com and /11 that's the number 11 /left -right -brain -personality -type, or just pull up personalityjunkie.com, left brain, right brain, personality type, and I'm sure you'll find it. Okay. So this article was by A.J. Drenth, Drenth, left versus right brain, life, meaning, and personality typing, or personality types. Okay, so human beings are meaning seekers. On one hand, we seek meaning in the form of ideas and concepts. We craft stories, theories, and formula to make sense of our lives and the world around us. On the other hand, we procure meaning by way of new experiences and sensations, which help us feel refreshed, invigorated, and liberated from the mundanity, I think I pronounced that right, of daily life. The distinct character of these two approaches is by no means arbitrary, but can be traced back to differences in the operations and orientations of the two cerebral hemispheres. Okay, and they've quoted their sources. So look that up online if you want to. Okay, now this is the left brain meaning through words and constructs. The left hemisphere, or what is, how to pronounce that? Colloquially, I don't like quoting somebody if I can't even pronounce what they're writing. It's colloquially, Colloquially. And I'm only spelling that out because I'm actually quoting somebody, so I don't want to change the meaning or definition of this. So the left hemisphere, or what is colloquially known as the, quote, left brain, finds meaning by ways of symbols, most notably through language. The development and advancement of language has overseen the flowering of human thought and culture, as well as the enhancement of human communication. No longer must we depend on body language or physical gestures to communicate with one another, but can do so abstractly through words, formula, and other symbols supplied by the left hemisphere. Often characterized as the, quote, scientific side of the brain, the left hemisphere strives to answer how and why questions. It discerns causal relationships and proffers rational explanations for, and that I put that in red, rational explanations for our observations and experiences. It formulates and works to answer abstract questions such as, where do we come from and why do we exist? On an individual level, it urges us to self-define, clarifying who we are and our role in the world. The left brain mediates meaning primarily through the development of explanatory constructs, definitions, and categories. By rendering the world more orderly and predictable, it helps us feel safe, reassured, and in control. Now I'm going to stop for a second. That part of it right there I believe in completely, because when I was tapped into my left brain personality type, I was trying to control life and everything else. The more I set myself free and allowed myself to flow, as I say, with the universe and tap into the right side of my brain, that's what's been able to allow me to let go and let whatever's supposed to happen. And that's a spiritual side. That's a right brain type of thing. Okay, so lacking of that control. So that makes me realize that when I was trying to control life too much and decide what's right, what's wrong, what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to live and all this kind of stuff, that's a left brain personality type. Okay, so I'm going to read that again. The left brain mediates meaning primarily through the development of explanatory constructs, definitions, and categories. By rendering the world more orderly and predictable, it helps us feel safe, reassured, and in control. Its symbols and definitions furnish an explicit framework of meaning, one that can be readily explicated to others. From a religious angle, the left hemisphere is the driving force behind our creeds, documents, and theologies. Its chief concern is the Word, the logos of God. Notions such as the power of the Word, the Holy Scriptures, or speaking things into existence illustrate the significance we attribute to left hemispheric meaning. Images of God as divine rule maker or of having a plan for our lives also hail from the left hemisphere. The belief that God had a specific and detailed plan for his creation from the outset, example, intelligent design, is another left hemisphere construct. Ironically, those who interpret evolution in terms of pure mechanism and determination operate in an equally left-brain fashion. Both camps emphasize order and predictability, but simply ascribe casuality, I'm not sure if they wrote that right, to different sources. Philosophically, the left hemisphere can be associated with determinism, absolutism, and positivism. From its vantage point, it is only a matter of time before our knowledge and understanding of the universe is complete. Okay. From a type perspective, we can associate the left hemisphere with judging and thinking, particularly extroverted thinking. We thus expect TJs, which is thinking and judging, to be the most left-brained of the types. We might also view conditions such as autism as examples of extreme left-brainedness, as theorists like Simon Baron Cohen have suggested. Okay, so that's the left brain personality typing. Okay, now the right brain, the meaning through experiences and emotions. In contrast to its left-sided partner, the right hemisphere does not deal in symbols and abstractions. Instead of abstractly carving the world into parts, categories, and mechanisms, it allows it to remain as it is, an undivided whole. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I already see that this is kind of considered that we right-brainers, as I'm mostly tapped into the right brain when I talk about the universe as a whole, we all affect each other. Our energy affects other people and such. So I'm thinking that that's part of where this is going. Okay, so it perceives the world holistically and concretely in a raw and unmediated way. Rather than perceiving through a lens of constructs, it treats each moment as an opportunity for novelty and meeting. Each new moment brings its own unique experience, its own adventure of thoughts, feelings, and sensations that can be valued and appreciated. From the aesthetic standpoint of the right brain, meaning doesn't come from the imposition of definitions and classifications, but is in part and parcel of life itself. Okay. While the left hemisphere labors to categorize and narratorize life, the right brain experiences it as a flow and ever-changing, grounding us in the present moment. Instead of you know what? I'm going to stop right there. That makes me realize that my issues, not issues, one of the things I'm working on is staying in the moment, right? Because I'm always looking into the future. That may be where my left brain keeps jumping in. That's interesting. That is so interesting to me right there in that moment. So like it says, yeah, okay, so that's where this part is. This is why the right brain is often associated. I wanted to go back to that one part. Okay, instead of interpreting life through preconceptions, it attunes to what is happening right now, as well as the feelings it engenders. This is why the right brain is often associated with art, which might be viewed as an expression of a lived moment. Okay. The right hemispheres can also lust for greater intensity of feeling and sensation. It may turn to any number of activities: art, love, sex, drugs, sports, gambling, religion, etc., in hopes of feeling, quote, more alive, impassioned, or inspired. Unlike practices such as mindfulness, which promotes a subtle appreciation for what is, passion seekers are always looking for something more intense, a bigger and better high. Despite this distinction, both can serve as sources of right brain pleasure. That's very interesting to me as well. And I think that part, I'm going to break in really quickly. I think that part is part of what I've seen left brain type people, the logical business type people, kind of judging as all tattooed people, all people who are expressing themselves are probably on drugs. Okay, now that is a generalized characterization, yes, but it's when I see that kind of judgment, automatically assuming that that's all collective, that I don't agree. What that's saying basically is that right brainers, they seek more passion, they seek more, but it's not just passion having to do with sex or drugs or anything like that. It's like, but that could be part of why people do tend to end up doing drugs or whatever. Maybe that's part of the right brain personality, just constantly looking for something more passionate in life, more feeling and such. So I understand that. Okay, I'm not on drugs, but I understand the idea of that. Okay, so here's a little breakdown. And actually, if you go to that source, it's a picture of a left and a right brain, and it has on the left and the right side different characteristics. The left side is showing analytical, versus the right side is creative. The left side is logical. The right side is imaginative. Left side is precise versus right side is general. Left side is repetitive. Right side is intuitive. Left side is organized. Right side shows conceptual. Left side shows details. Right side shows big picture. Left side is scientific. Right side is heuristic. I think that's how you pronounce that. Left side is detached. The right side is empathetic. Oh, that's a big one. Okay, that's where my empathy comes from. Because empathetic is the opposite of detached. It is attaching to people's feelings and such. Left side of the brain is literal. The right side is figurative. Left side is sequential. The right side is irregular. So those are very interesting. I think I might print that up and keep that image. Okay, so let's continue on. Image courtesy of BIAA. Don't know what that is, but look it up online. Okay, so I'm going to religiously, the right hemisphere prompts us to envision God as spirit or force, which one cannot be adequately described with words. Taoism and mysticism. Taoism is actually something that Bob Rosenberg, when I had him on the show, was talking about. And he's supposed to come on when I start having guests. He's supposed to come on and go into greater detail about Taoism, because that's actually really interesting. So Taoism and mysticism are perhaps the cleanest or the clearest examples of right-brained religious traditions. Mysticism, in particular, is oriented toward experiencing God apart from concepts. With that said, Western religions, such as Christianity, also have something to offer the right brain. In addition to the Actually, I found that really interesting, because I'm such a spiritual person, and I'm the one who, just on my own, this isn't from reading anything, always refer to everything as like the, our higher self or the universe or God or all encompassing, and that's how I look at it. So this right here talking about, but I'm a Christian because I also believe in God, but I just don't define what God is. I think God can be everything that everyone describes, including strict Christians who describe God as God. I mean, I think it can be anything. It's just a matter of how we want to see it, as long as we see it. So that part right there, which actually says, with that said, Western religions such as Christianity also have something to offer the right brain. That's interesting to me. Okay, so in addition to the Trinitarian concept of the Holy Spirit, notions such as God is love and having a personal relationship with God, these are like straight out of my mouth, I swear, speak to the right hemisphere's desire for affiliation and emotional connection. Okay. Oh, that's interesting to me. The charismatic wing of Christianity places particular emphasis on experiencing the love, power, and the gifts of the Spirit. Okay. Philosophically, the right hemisphere is a backer of free will, relativism, and skepticism. Because of its live-in-the-moment attitude, it emphasizes freedom over law and order. It is therefore reluctant to adopt the left hemisphere's rules or constructs, let alone consider them absolute. Libertarianism and anarchism are great examples of right-brained political philosophies, although as philosophies, they still involve a left brain element. See, the funny thing is I didn't really read this part, the religious part of this. I just copied it on here and thought, well, maybe I'll read that, maybe I won't. But now that I'm reading it, it's helping to define me a little bit more within myself. So that's interesting. Okay, so the last part of this is, with respect to personality type, the right hemisphere can be associated with the perceiving preference. P-types, so we're going to consider P-types are perceiving preference. P-types are notoriously keen on, quote, keeping their options open. Oh my. Okay. They refer to forego extensive planning, which allows them to respond more authentically to how they feel in the moment. Wow. That has to do with my radio show, by the way. And that's how I look at it. I like to respond in the moment. Okay. Although the left hemisphere is well represented by a single function, TE, we need at least two functions: introverted, which is feeling, FI, and extroverted, sensation, which is SE, to do justice to the right hemisphere. FI, which is feeling, speaks to the right brain's fluidity of feelings, and extroverted sensing to its fluid and immediate sensory perceptivity. Now I can go deep into that because that's something new to me. Okay, so anyway, that is, well, I clicked out of it before I can tell you again what that link was, but look up that link. It's at the beginning of the show. So we're going to go on to the next part. Now, if you want to look this up, these are common left brain characteristics, okay? So left brainers, listen up. Or if you're taking notes, or if you'd like to look it up. The website is blog.mindvalley.com/left brain characteristics, okay? So blog Mind Valley, M-I-N-D Valley.com, and then look up left brain characteristics. Now, I did not get right brain characteristics off of the same website, so now I'm kind of interested. I should go back and look up that website with right brain characteristics. Okay, so left brainers. Have you ever heard someone say, "Wow, you're so good at math. You must be a left brain person," or "You have such an artistic approach to problem solving. You're definitely right brained." People are often divided into two groups, left brain people and right brain people. Why is that? And what does it mean to be left brained? In this article, we will explore what left brain characteristics are and what it means to be left brain personality, and how you can align your left brain using your knowledge, skills, and talents to reach your brain's full potential. I like that, because that's what we're striving for, right? That's what I'm striving for. Okay, so what are some of the characteristics of the left side of the brain? The division of the brain on the left side and the right side originates from the theory of brain lateralization. This means that the two halves of the brain control different modes of thinking. It is believed that people are generally inclined toward one way of thinking over the other. Truth. That is truth. I can see that. Everybody knows that, because, you talk to different people and people see things, completely differently. But now you can attribute that a lot to what part of the brain they're tuning into. Okay, so in reality, both sides of the brain work in unison and are in constant communication. Okay. Now that explains me why I basically can't pick a side, because I see all sides. This means that most of the people not entirely left brain or right brain oriented, still but in some people, one of the sides can be more dominant than the other. To understand what are the left side of brain characteristics, we have to look at what processes it controls in the mind and body. Okay. What does the left side of the brain control? The left side of the brain is responsible for our language ability, analytical and critical thinking, and logical reasoning. Okay. The left brain dominates the following abilities and aspects of our conscious mind: logic, language, numbers. Isn't that interesting? I'm a numbers person. So there's my left brain. Okay. Critical thinking, which I'm a critical thinker, and reasoning. That's what's funny, is reading all this. Pretty much every characteristic of both sides of the brain I can relate to. So I think I'm pretty balanced. I love it. Okay, what does it mean to be a left brain person? It simply means that your left brain is dominant. In other words, you think more methodically and analytically than creative and artistic, for which is right side in charge. Even if your left side of the brain is naturally more dominant, a great impact on its improvement has your socialization process. By spending time with friends who are interested in math and science, your logical thinking will naturally improve. Okay, that's really interesting right there. Part of how we can balance ourselves. And you know why this is so interesting to me, this moment? In this exact moment. Because I was such a logical person. I saw things in such a logical way. And I'm only using that one particular because I think that's the one we relate to the most for left brain, is logic. Okay. But I fit the description of a left brain dominant personality type in my career, with my family, and the people I hung out with. Now, those were air traffic controllers. Okay. And there's generally a left brain mentality, obviously, with that particular career field. Now, that makes me realize that when I did start spending more time and jumped into the paranormal, which is the unknown, I was tapping into the right side of my brain without even realizing it. That right side personality type was coming out, that curiosity. It led me that direction. And I've always said that going toward the paranormal field was where I was supposed to go because I got so much out of it. I ended up being such a spiritual person. I ended up really, really tapping in. I never even thought about the fact that I was really tapping into the right side of my brain. The more you're around it, and I realized that as well, is the more I was around it, the more I was guided to go to a certain direction, which ended up leading me to the show, which ended up also leading me to being a very spiritual person and understanding empath and all of that. Well, I used to look at that as God or my angels or whoever, my higher self, as I look at all of that, guided me that direction so that I can really tune into myself, because this is where I thrive as a person. Okay? I still have that logical side, but I tend to thrive more on the right side of my brain. Now I'm realizing that that is probably because I was around those people, therefore they triggered the right side of my brain. They triggered everything, just like healing, that probably came up from down below. That is so interesting to me. So basically, the whole birds of a feather flock together theory, other than friendships, if we're trying to balance ourselves, that might be another thing to do to balance, is actually balance ourselves between hanging out with or be friends with left brain and right brain personality types. And if we feel like we're leaning toward, leading too much in one direction, maybe aim for the other direction. So that's interesting. That's my own 2 cents, which was more like $5. Sorry. Let me see how much time I have. Oh, okay. We'll have plenty of time for this. I'm going to do a 2-hour show. Okay, so that's what I'm aiming for, is the 2 hours. So we do have to wrap it up by 8 o'clock, obviously. I'm just going to talk up until. So let me see. We're going to read that again. What does it mean to be left-brained person? Rocky's going to start barking because I hear dogs outside barking, so let's try to not let it affect us here. It simply means that your left brain is dominant. In other words, you think more methodically and analytically than creative and artistic, for which is the right side in control. Even if your left side of the brain is naturally more dominant, a great impact on its improvement has your socialization process. By spending time with friends who are interested in math and science, your logical thinking will naturally improve. Interesting. I love that. I love how much that I'm getting out of this just by reading it out loud. I'd said before how sometimes you can know something inside, or you can, read it or whatever, but when I actually come out and say it, it's almost like it comes through my throat chakra, out my mouth, back through my ears, and suddenly I'm taking it in. I've said that 1,000 times. Okay, so what is a left brain person like? Generally, so we can't typecast everybody, but generally, the left brain individual relies on cold, hard facts and real life data rather than emotions and imagination. Their systematic and stable personalities make them good candidates as reliable team leaders. They often pace themselves and do not overreact quickly. When it comes to daily life, left brain people approach it the same way they approach their professional or academic obligations. For example, when watching a movie, a left brain person tends to analyze it from a technical point of view. They try to evaluate the quality of the script or how good or bad the directing was. They strive to be as clear and direct as possible. The left brain people like order and organization, like order and organize their daily plans as neatly and systematically as possible. They remember events chronologically, usually in great detail, and approach every potential risk with necessary caution. When facing problems, they immediately try to find the most effective solutions, and they're not easily distracted by their emotions. I see so much of myself in that description. I love that I'm starting to realize that I am actually equal left and right brain. Because I felt like I went from a left brain personality suppressing my right brain to very, very, very much right brained. And now I'm realizing that I actually am very, very balanced. And that's what I'm striving for. So, okay, next one is how to develop your left brain. I hope that he doesn't continue because he'll distract me. How to develop, it's actually a good thing that I'm reading because it's easier than me trying to think while he barks, because my empathetic personality will absorb that anxiety and I'll get distracted. Okay, so how to develop your left brain. Left brain people often exhibit logical, mathematical intelligence. I loved math. I loved math growing up until we got to algebra, and then it was all a mess for me. But I was very natural in math, but I was also very good at English. I loved English. That was my favorite class. So I'm starting to realize English is more like literature type and dissecting sentences, but dissecting sentences is, I would think, a left brain thing. I would think, but that was my favorite. I loved English class. So anyway, let's go back here. I'm getting distracted by my own Mel's Eureka moments. I love my Mel's Eureka moments. It tells me everything I need to know about myself. And when we know about ourselves, we can continue to move along, creating who we want ourselves to be and live happily ever after. Am I right? Okay, so let me go back to that. Left brain people often exhibit logical, mathematical intelligence, which is one of the 9 intelligences defined by Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. This enables them to be excellent mathematicians, scientists, and technicians. Everyone possesses this type of intelligence to a certain extent, but left brain people can especially benefit from improving it. They can gain a better understanding of logic by solving mathematical problems and immersing themselves in novel situations. As Jim Quick, Kwik, the author of Mind Valley's Superbrain program, well, that sounds interesting, says, we need to know how our minds work so we can work our minds better. I love that. Oh my goodness, I love that. How many times have I talked about, like, if we can master our own brains, how much we can accomplish if we can master our own brains. We need to know how our minds work so we can work our minds better. Oh, that's so perfect. I love it. All right. Now, exercises to improve your left brain. Mental exercises. Since the left side of the brain is better with words and numbers, simple brain games and exercises such as Sudoku and crossword puzzles can help improve those skills. My mom does a lot of crossword puzzles. Like, she does a lot of them, and she is so good at that. She's a very left brain personality. I realize that she's a very left brain personality type. So that's really cool. I got those Sudoku books and started going nuts over them. I couldn't concentrate long enough to do it, so I ended up giving them to my mom. I'm going to have to ask her how well she did. Okay, physical exercises. Exercising the right side. Okay, this is very interesting, and it's because the left side of your brain actually controls the right side of your body. But that's coming up. So physical exercises, in exercising to improve our left brain, exercising the right side of our body will stimulate the left side of your brain, and vice versa. So simple exercises like breathing through one nostril can awaken your brain. I've got something to say about this. I have had a chronic issue with the left side of my body, the whole left side of my body, from head to toe. I got a reading from John J. Oliver. Anyone who knows John J. Oliver, he's world renowned. He works with the police, worldly. He was on the show Haunting Evidence, which was, I loved that show. He's got the greatest personality ever. I've been to events with him. I want to do he's got 2 events. This is a side note. I wanted to have him on the show. He did respond, and this was a while back, and then I stopped having guests. So if I start having guests again, I'm going to have him come on. But he's amazing. Look up John, make sure it's J. Oliver, because John Oliver is somebody else. John J. Oliver on Haunting Evidence, and see everything that he does outside of that. So he's got 2 programs, 2 retreats. One's a 10-day retreat, and I believe that one is in California. And it's 10 days, 10 hours a day. You have to sit up straight and you meditate. He says by day 3, people have tried to escape. They've tried to figure out ways to get out without him seeing. He says if you can get past that 3rd day, because that's really getting in tune with yourself. And I cannot remember what it's called every single time. I'm like, I can't remember what it's called. What is it, John? I love him, by the way. I absolutely adore that man, and I miss him so much. But he has that retreat in California. He's got another retreat. I believe it's in West Virginia or Virginia. I think it's Virginia, actually. And that is, I think, a 5-day retreat. And that's one where you basically just let go and you can wake up. He said, you just allow anything. You go with trust. I don't know too much about it other than he described it to me because he knows that I want to go to one of these or both of them. And he says, I could wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and jump into freezing cold water or repel a building. or mountain climb, or maybe one day we get up and we all just do yoga. It is unpredictable, but you just go with it. It's just one of those things you just go with. So those are interesting. Those are very interesting. But anyway, getting back to John J. Oliver, I had a reading, an official reading from him, which is, amazing. And he does these sketches, and he will scan your body. He will physically scan your body because he's a very medical intuitive type person. He can feel if something's off. As he's scanning my body, he's like, cardiovascular, everything good. He's like, spiritually, he told me I glowed more than anybody there. That was like the highlight of the day, the whole event, everything else. He says that spiritually, at that time at least, because we change, we get clogged and everything else, he saw that light coming in and all that. So he's like, okay, and he's scanning cardiovascular. They scan, he's like, you're very healthy, you're physically blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, as he's drawing this stick figure, scanning me, he draws a line straight up and down from the top to bottom on the left side, and he says, what's going on with the left side of your body? So I was like, eureka. I'm like, exactly. I don't know. Had a neck spasm in the left side of my neck many years ago, went down to a spasm in the left side of my hip. I have problems with my ankle now on the left side. My whole left side of my body has always been messed up. Some people attribute that to mother issues or female. It's always left side of your body means female, right side of your body means male, and tapping into that energy and clearing that energy and all that. Whether it has to do with mom problems, not necessarily. It's just that a lot of people will respond that way and automatically assume mom or dad issues. But left side of my body has always been messed up. So this is interesting, getting back, sorry about the distraction there, but getting back to this part right here that talks about how exercising for a left brain person, to exercise the right side of your body, that leads me to believe that that's what I need to do, possibly. Or that actually leads me, that could be something, there could be something in that for me. But it also leads me to believe that the right side of my personality might have something to do with the issues on the left side of my physical body. And maybe it's a mindset as well, which I always thought anyway, but this is the first time I looked at it as a left brain, right brain thing. So anyway, that's enough of my story. We're going to continue because I still have more to read here. So like I said, physical exercises in order to improve your left brain. Physical exercises, exercising the right side of your body will stimulate the left side of your brain and vice versa. So simple exercises like breathing through one nostril can awaken your brain. I'm gonna experiment with that, by the way. The left side, of course, left side of my nostril is always clogged compared to the right side. And my headaches come on the left side and everything else. Okay, so listening to music. 2008 study on music and brain activity has shown that listening to music can improve verbal and memory skills. So apparently that's a left side brainer thing. So no matter how good we are in specific parts of our talents granted by either side of the brain, finding balance between the two can help unleash the full potential of our minds. Okay, so once again, that source of information, which you might want to look up, is blog.mindvalley.com, left brain characteristics. So we're going to tap out of that, and I'm going to go on to the next thing. Now, these are right brain imagery examples. Nope, that one's... Oh, see, you know what? I had actually... I'm going to look up something really quickly because before I get to the right brain imagery examples, it was one of many descriptions between left brain and right brain, and I think maybe I accidentally clicked out of that and need to go to that actual article. So bear with me if you're hearing clicking. I'm clicking around trying to find it. I hope I have it in here. Left brain personality types. I'm going to pull up the link of the one that I first told you about and see if it's on there, because what it was it was a basic left brain, right brain, and then it went into detail about that part of it right there. See, that doesn't make a lot of sense to you. I didn't copy and paste the whole articles there. Just the parts where I thought would really come into play. So, what's interesting, clicking back on this website, the personalityjunkie.com, is that they have a free personality test. So you can go on there and you can actually see the personality test and where you might fit there. Just like the Briggs-Myers personality testing, this is left left brain, right brain personality type. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll extend this at some point and go into that test and read it to you like we did the Briggs-Myers personality test and just do it for everybody. Oh my goodness. I know I saved this in my bookmarks somewhere. I really want, because it doesn't make sense to go into there. I'm sorry that I did this. Oh, you know what? Here it is. Okay, this is the first one that I actually read. No, these are imagery. Left brain, right brain. Oh, I despise that I have to do this. I hate doing this like while I'm on air trying to actually find the information. But I want to get you good information. Guess what? I wrote it down. Hold on. And I felt like I was so prepared. I felt like I was so prepared for tonight's show. So now I'm gonna come through here and find where I put it, and hope that it doesn't take forever. Okay, here it is. No. Okay, so now we're on the right brain. We are. I'm waiting for him to stop, by the way. Okay. Yes, here we are. Here we are. Did I look up the right one? Let's go ahead and the imagery. Okay, so before we get to that. All right, now, the right side of the brain, and this is what I had written from that one, it controls the left side of our body. We just talked about that. It performs tasks that have to do with creativity and arts. Creative, artistic, intuitive, spontaneous are characteristics. Now, it's dominant for, and this is where it leads to this particular bit of information that I pulled up. Spatial abilities, which refers to perceiving the visual world, transforming and modifying initial perceptions, and mentally recreating spatial aspects of one's visual experience without the relevant stimuli. To me, that means imagination. Sorry about that. To me, that means imagination. Okay. It's also dominant for face recognition. Isn't that interesting? I don't know if that means that the more right-brained you are, the better you are at recognizing people, or if that's just or if that's just the side of your brain that it takes to recognize people, which would make sense that if you're more of a right-brain person, you probably do better. Okay, and then also right brain is dominant for visual imagery. Oh my Lord. See, I'm so thrown now that I didn't have that. Visual imagery. Now that's what I pulled up because I wanted to explain the difference in these visual imagery examples because I thought that was fascinating. Visual imagery is a right brain characteristic, and I got this from, it's FOS, Foxtrot Oscar Sierra iloveindia.com /imagery examples. Okay, so, and I will post all of these on my Facebook show page, Flip the Switch. Okay, so visual imagery, right brain imagery examples. Visual is the first one. This is the most frequent type of imagery used to recreate certain image. And here's the examples. The crimson liquid spilled from the neck of the white dove. Staining and matting is pure white feathers. Okay. The shadows crisscrossed the rug while the cat stretched languidly in one of the patches of sun. Okay. For the life of him, he couldn't figure why these East Enders called themselves black. He kept looking, and the colors he found were ginger snap and light fudge and dark fudge and acorn and butter rum and cinnamon and burnt orange, but never licorice, which to him was real black. Okay, now that part, in case the rest of that was confusing, that part is what makes sense to me. Okay, what we do visually is we perceive things in a certain way, like that. To him, he's looking for the color of licorice because to him that is real black. When somebody says that's black and he's describing it as ginger snap, light fudge, dark fudge, acorn, butter rum, cinnamon, but no black, because he's looking for what he relates the color to be licorice black. The color of licorice to him is true black. Okay, so that's a visual. Brain imagery. Visual. First, you know what? I just gave you that example, but I'm going to go down to what these 7 brain imagery examples are. Now, when you look this up online, if you look up right brain imagery, different articles, just like that personality assessment and everything else, different articles say that there's different numbers of them. Some of them had 5, some of them, this one I found 7, so I stuck with this. One of them, visual imagery, is visual. One of them is auditory, okay, sounds. One of them is kinesthetic, which is imagery. Olfactory, which is smell. Gustatory, which is taste. Tactile, I think that's how you, tactile, which is more sensations. And organic. Okay, I'm going to explain those to you. So those are the 7 right brain imagery examples. Okay, I already discussed the first one. Visual is like relating the color black to the color of licorice. So unless it's the color of licorice, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a specific item. And if you can picture, you know, somebody, I take it as like if somebody said, that's maroon, or that's not even maroon, a certain color of red. Well, to me, I'm going to immediately picture maybe blood. Okay, because to me, that's that visual reference to that color. So if you say that particular color red, whatever you picture that color red, and all I see are all these other colors, and they're not quite the color of blood, I may say, well, no, I see maroon, I see wine, I see, whatever. Okay, so that's how I'm reading that. Now, number 2, auditory. Auditory image is the mental representation of any sound, and it's vital in imagining and in feeling a situation, relating sounds to situations. Okay, which has its sounds familiar like the roar of trees and crackle of branches, common things, but nothing so like beating on a box. And that's from An Old Man's Winter Night by Robert Frost. Okay, quote, the next example. At the next table, a woman stuck her nose in a novel. A college kid pecked at a laptop. Overlaying all this, a soundtrack, chuka 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 chuka, the metronomic rhythm of an Amtrak train rolling down the line to California, a sound that called to mind an old camera reel moving frames of images along a linear track telling a story. And that's an excerpt from Riding the Rails. Okay, so can you see the auditory imagery is going into detail and referring a sound to like a moment in time. Okay, picturing, the chuka 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 chuka, and talk about the Amtrak train and such. Okay, so the third one is kinesthetic. Imagery as a broader term used to describe the sense of movement or tension. One example is the clay oozed between Jeremy's fingers as he let out a squeal of pure glee. The second one is tossing their heads in sprightly dance, and that's from Daffodils by W. Wordsworth. The third one is with a wild rattle and clatter and an inhuman abandonment of consideration, not easy to be understood in these days, the carriage dashed through streets and swept around corners, with women screaming before it and men clutching each other and clutching children out of its way. At last, swooping at a street corner by a fountain, one of its wheels came to a sickening little jolt, and there was a loud city from a number of voices. There was a loud city from a number of voices, and the horses reared and plunged. That's an excerpt from Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Okay, so the imagery describing like the clay oozed, when you picture that, what I'm taking is that's one of the sensories a right brain person is going to actually picture that when you're talking about, something. They're going to picture clay oozing. They're going to picture the actual imagery. I do that a lot. I believe that has to do with, like, when I look at things and I'm trying to describe things, whether it's on here or just in general or even to myself, and I visualize something and I can visualize how it's moving. When I talked about, unleashing those trapped emotions and stuff, I visualized, almost like a champagne cork kind of thing, and things bubbling up below and coming up through you. I believe that that's what this is talking about. Okay, so the next visual imagery for a right brain personality type is olfactory, which imagery is related to smell, and this imagery helps summon and deliver the smells to the reader. Okay, I was awakened. You know what? A lot of these tell me as well, that's why right brain people make good writers, good songwriters, good book writers and such, because that's what they're doing. They're using this imagery and finding ways to describe what they feel and what they see and such in a way that it brings the reader into the book. That's interesting to me. Okay, so an example of olfactory. I was awakened by the strong smell of freshly brewed coffee. When you read that, what do? Doesn't that come into your mind, that smell? So it kind of puts you in the moment. Okay, number 2, Gio's socks, still soaked with sweat from Tuesday's PE class, fill the classroom with an aroma akin to that of salty, week-old rotting fish. Doesn't that make you kind of cringe? Can't you kind of feel that? Doesn't it kind of make you actually smell that in the moment and feel the feelings surrounding that? And then that might even lead to the emotions surrounding that, Okay, the third one is, I lay still and took another minute to smell. I smelled the warm, sweet, all-pervasive smell of silage, as well as the sour, dirty laundry spilling over the basket in the hall. I could pick out the acrid smell of Claire's drenched diaper, her sweaty feet, and her hair crushed with sand. The heat compounded the smells, doubled the fragrance. That's an excerpt from A Map of the World from Random House. Okay, and then it has on here, there's more images if you want to read that on that site, fos.iloveindia.com, imagery examples. So, I'm starting to really understand what this means, is that right brain personality types, they really connect with those type of descriptions and can actually feel it, smell it, whatever, and their emotions come into it. That's also an empathic thing. Okay, the fifth one, gustatory. Imagery illustrates and recreates the tastes of food or many other things. One example, tumbling through the ocean water after being overtaken by the monstrous wave, Mark unintentionally took a gulp of the briny, bitter mass, causing him to cough and gag. Okay, did you not just now get a huge, when we react, when we like take in salt, when we have like a huge thing that's way too salty, I reacted to that, okay? I'm salivating, kind of trying to wash it down just by reading that, okay? Second one, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox in which you were probably saving for breakfast. Okay, I just bit into a plum in my mind and I can taste it, Okay, third one is, forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Now, you know what just happened? My teeth cringed because I have sensitive teeth. I desired the sweet and my teeth cringed because of the cold. And that's from the poem, This Is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams. Okay, so that's interesting. The sixth century imagery. You see, because of that one, because of the salty one, and then the plum, I'm salivating. How terrible is that? Okay, the sixth one, tactile. Imagery appeals to the sense of touch by presenting attributes like hardness, softness, or hot and cold sensations. Okay, see, I just responded to that. I responded to both taste and I responded to that feeling. Okay, the bed linens might just as well be ice and the clothes snow. And that's from Robert Frost, The Witch of Coos. Okay. Second one. When the others went swimming, my son said he was going in too. He pulled his dripping trunks from the line where they had hung all through the shower and wrung them out. Languidly, and with no thought of going in, I watched him, his hard little body, skinny and bare, saw him wince slightly as he pulled up around as he pulled up around his vitals the small, soggy, icy garment. As he buckled the swollen belt, suddenly my groin felt the chill of death. And that's from E.B. White's One More to the Lake. Did you feel that? Guys probably just felt that. Guys probably felt that even more than women. Okay, so organic imagery is the seventh one. And organic imagery concentrates on recreating internal sensations like hunger, thirst, fear, or fatigue. Okay, this is the only example. It's when I'm wary of considerations and life is too much like a pathless wood from Robert Frost's Birches, creating pictures with words enriches any kind of work and is the best way to communicate your world to the people out there. If you can figure out what to do with that image in your mind, then just chase it and capture it using the power of words and imagery. Now I think that is powerful, and I love that part. That it's creating the picture in somebody's mind with words. Okay, so those are the seven imagery, and that was, like I said, that was part of the right brain. What they're dominant for is the imagery, and that was 7 different imageries. Does that make sense? 7 different imageries. Okay, so now we're going to go to right brain common characteristics. Okay, if you're a right brain personality type, how much time do I have left? I've got to get done before 8 o'clock. Okay, now this is the website is thepoweroftherightbrain.com, and it's 2015/09/18/12 characteristics, traits of a predominant right brain person. Just go to thepoweroftherightbrain.com and then look up, traits of right brain person. Once again, right brain person, that creative person. Here's a superficial portrait of how a predominantly right brain person thinks, behaves, perceives, and creates in its daily existential reality. Of course, just as nothing is totally black or white, nobody fits solely into the right brain or left brain predominance portrait. I like that it had that disclaimer because I don't like being, I like keeping things general. We are all individual and unique. So we are all somewhat part of both extremes. Sometimes we are well balanced. The goal is to reach balance in life. Perfect. See, that's what I was trying to decide if that was what we should really do. Not necessarily that means that we do or not. This is just a news article, but the goal is to reach balance in life, but naturally one side dominates. Let's find out what the right brainer characteristics are. Thought process. Number 1, thought process. Intuition and induction. Right brainers feel instead of reason. We feel instead of reason. I like that. They have the sixth sense not everybody taps into. It may be hard for the majority to understand. Now, listen up for you very logical people. This part is true. It may be hard for the majority to understand or accept, but a significant proportion of the population do not process information using the left brain. They scan it with their heart. See, like I said, right brain people to me in my head are heart people. We do things emotionally, and it's not a bad thing. That leads to miscommunication and misinterpretation between friends, in love, or professional relationships. People of different predominance may have a hard time understanding each other during the beginning of their relationships. The left brain partner asks for the facts to explain why the right brain partner's feelings were hurt. Unfortunately, the pain cannot be expressed and fixed with intellect, but rather empathy. Okay, I love that part. That just describes me and my frustrations like you can't imagine. Okay, right brainers induce while left brainers deduce. Okay. Inductive reasoning uses the creativity and or intuition process to propose possible explanations for the outcomes. A scientist is trained to go through a methodical process in order to generate information, which is called deduction. This is the norm in the left brain world. Naturally, the predominant right brainers have to work hard to close the intellectual gap, but it pays off in the end. Important discoveries and inventions are made by right brainers who have enough talent and determination to evolve through science, along with left brain scientists who can connect with audiences while speaking. Right brainers come up with the answers first. Then they track down, oh, that's interesting. They come up with the answer first. Then they track down the rational investigation that leads to the answers. To me, that's intuition. I totally relate to that right there. I come up with the answer, and then I have to track it down to verify it and the reasoning why and such. Pure left brainers are mind-boggled in face of right brain processes that successfully demonstrate evidence through a new theory. Predominantly left brain persons' thought process, logic, and deduction. You know what's funny about that is that my whole life, and I've had people, even people at work, I remember years ago somebody told me there was something I knew, I just saw intuitively and such, and with my heart I saw a situation. I kept describing it, and people just thought, okay, where are you getting this? You were like way out of left field. Well, it happened exactly as I saw it because I already can see what was happening. It just had to be demonstrated to other people, to where I actually had a coworker come back, and at a different point in life, my mom came back to me with a different story and said, wow, you were right. How did you see that? It's because I kind of saw what the situation was intuitively, and I felt it, I guess, with my heart, and I recognized it. When methodical people, left brainers, they don't see the end situation. They study to get all the information to lead to the conclusion. We kind of get the conclusion, and then we have to go back and track it down to have it explained, even to ourselves. We can see something, and a lot of time that's called second guessing ourselves or whatever. But a lot of times, intuitive people, we second guess ourselves. We see something and it just makes sense, and then we have to go back and we have to figure it out to see if what we're seeing is right. Okay, so I love that. That is so interesting to me. So number 2, knowledge acquisition, faith, anticipation, channeling. Channeling. There it is right there. That's a first chakra thing, by the way. I'm sorry, a 7 chakra. Yeah, it goes from bottom to top. I always get that backwards. Okay, right brainers have to believe in something. We do. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense why we're even here. To me, I'm a right brainer in that fact I have to believe in something, because if I don't, it's like, well, then why am I here? What do I have to motivate me to get out of bed? So right brainers have to believe in something. You cannot try to convince them. They will resonate or not with what you're trying to sell, and they will choose to buy it or not. You can't talk us into a whole lot because we just know. They foresee and predict the future, sometimes with surprising accuracy. This may sound strange, but they have the ability to create the reality in favor of their prediction. They can expand their aura and be in full control of their destiny. You don't teach them things. You catch their attention. They know. Everybody keep that in mind. Right brainers, empathics, we know. From the bottom of their heart, they can vibrate with an idea. If you ask them to debate with you, they can come up with a shocking statement that originates from out of the blue. I've done that so many times in the middle of a conversation. I'm so deep into the idea of it, and I've already gotten to the conclusion where I'll actually come out and say something, and people are going, like, what does that even mean? Like, where are you even going with that? And I would have to actually step it up in my brain and tell them everything that's come into my head that got me to that point. This is funny to me because this is really teaching me about myself. From the bottom of their heart, they vibrate with an idea. If you ask them to debate with you, they can come up with a shocking statement that originates from out of the blue. They don't get writer's block. They're inspired. Predominantly left brain persons' knowledge acquisition, information. This is left brain. Predominantly left brain persons' knowledge acquisition is information recall and observation analysis. Okay. I didn't tell you that at the beginning of this, by the way, that the right brain common characteristics, this particular article is showing, it's showing 12 different personality or common characteristics. And that's why at the very end it is showing, like the first one was thought process, intuition and induction for a right brainer. The thought process for a left brainer is logic and deduction. The thought process, the second one is knowledge acquisition. For a right brainer, it's faith, anticipation, and channeling. For a left brainer, it's information recall, observation, analysis. Okay, so number 3 is going to be action. For right brainers, it's free will. Okay, right brainers tend to dislike supervision. They want to be their own boss. If If you now hear, I'm a mix between right brain and left brain. This is really interesting. They want to be their own boss. If you drown them with excessive micromanagement, overwhelm them with too many policies, point your finger at them, if they don't toe the company line, they will quickly slam the door, regardless of their paycheck. If they're smart, they will generally leave on good terms, start their own business, return knocking at your door, offer you a contract where they can take care of their previous job's tasks while implementing new ideas. All this happens even before you have time to find someone to replace them. Their offer stipulates that they work from home, charge you more, work less, and guarantee supreme quality work. In the end, you benefit from their proposition. Chances are, if you accept their deal, they will succeed and surpass expectations, and you'll get your money's worth. In general, predominantly right-brain people need to express their true nature, will not comply to a suffocating relationship, household, job, or society. If they cannot escape, be ready to hear their protests. In their perfect world, they will give you a lot, more than you've ever expected without asking for more. Oh, there's so much in that just makes sense to me. So that one's free. That one is action. Okay. That describes action. For a right brainer, it's free will. For a predominantly left brain person, their action is they need direction and guidelines. I am so on both. And here's what's funny about this is that I like guidelines when it comes to my job. But guess what? My official job as an air traffic controller is a left brain type of job. I have no desire to just take off on my own. I have no desire to actually even be supervisor or anything like that. I like boundaries. I like set guidelines. However, my right brain is over here doing my radio show. I don't accept anyone telling me what to do. I am all about creativity. I am all about being in charge of it. Everything about that is a right brain. So I believe I'm balanced in that way. And it's funny that I have both of those things in my life. Okay, so number 4, talking about right brain common characteristics, the environment preference. For a right brainer, it's freedom, autonomy, and autonomy. I can't pronounce it. Autonomy, I think is how you pronounce it, and common sense. Okay. So that's environment preference. Like we said earlier, right-brainers need space and your trust. They don't appreciate Big Brother watching over your shoulder. They'll tolerate to be monitored if it's just for passive data collection. Do not force them to follow your rigid way, or they will take the highway. Leave them alone. Report their mistakes in passing, and they will adjust. Their creative ideas contribute to your organization. Keep that in mind. You can be in a left brain situation, and I've done this at work before, where I might have had ideas, and they're creative ideas, and this is over the years or whatever, and it's like that still, if you listen, that adds to the possibilities in a left brain environment. So the creative ideas contribute to your organization. In relationships, you have close right brain friends or a right brain partner because they're everything but boring. Ouch. If you can weather some tumultuous storms, I'm saying ouch to other people who are left brain because that's calling you boring. But in relationship, let me see. If you can weather some tumultuous storms, especially in the beginning of a relationship, you're in it for a ride with an exciting, generous, and easygoing ally as long as you show respect in return. That's so huge in my world because I've always looked at it that way. It's like, yeah, it's probably going to be hard for you at first to even understand me or whatever, but you show me respect. That is the main thing that I'm looking for, and that's the main thing that really keeps me wanting to make things work is respect. So predominantly left brain persons' environmental preferences are structure, rules, and laws. Let me see how much time I have. Okay, we've got about a half an hour here. Okay, so number 5, commonalities, I guess, of the right brainers is planning strategy. We consider all possibilities, where a left brain person would look for optimal scenario. So we consider all possibilities as right brainers. Right brainers tend to go with the flow. They dislike control freaks because they embrace their existence with an open mind. They will accept a lesser outcome if they can still enjoy themselves. Success is about the journey more than the result. They will first make sure everybody on board is happy and enjoying the ride as well, ensuring that everyone on board is on duty ranks second. If their preferred scenario doesn't come to fruition, they can be satisfied with another one if they see positivity and potential. That's big in my world because I adjust very easily. They don't mind being destabilized and thrown into the action. Life sometimes gives you signs, but you need awareness to detect them. Oh my gosh, I've said that 1,000 times. I use that in my prayers, by the way. I'm like, not only do I, ask for opportunities or even soulmate, whatever. I now don't ask for that. What I ask for is my ability to recognize. And that's huge that they have this written. Right brainers like unexpected signs they can rely on to check if they're on the right track, not the usual dashboard report or GPS. That's big too, because what have I said about the Elizabeth Peru write-up? I always go back. I feel everything and I live my life a certain way and I go through different things and I assess it on my own. It's an internal mechanism that I have. I refer back to things like Elizabeth Peru and it validates, or even getting readings from people and all this. It validates to me that I'm on the right track, that I figured it out and I felt it myself. So that's really interesting. Like I said, for planning strategy, the left brain person, predominantly left brain person's planning strategy is to look for the optimal scenario. Okay, now number 6, and I've got to start doing this quickly, is organization. With a right brain person, that's spatial or circular. With a left brain person, it's sequential or linear. That's very interesting. Right brain person, you may have heard order emerges from chaos. You may know people whose house is upside down, or a colleague whose desk is a mess with paper randomly piled here and there. Yet, when they're looking for something in all that disorder, they find it. Right brainers tend to be disorganized, at least in the eye of a predominantly left brain person. But as everything is relative, a so-called mess makes perfect sense for right brainers. When you execute a choreography or play a piece of music, you need to have trained your left brain very well in order to perform successfully. Jammers, jazz players, and street dancers all have disordered minds. However, they improvise just perfectly. Predominant left brain persons for organization is sequential or linear. What's interesting about that is that I thrive better when I have things organized. However, I tend to be disorganized. In trying to organize, I will become completely disorganized. You've got to see it to understand it. Okay, so anyway, number 7 is perception. For a right brainer, perception or point of view is the big picture. For a left brainer, it's oriented to details. Okay, we see the big picture. I say we because I'm right now I'm really relating to a right brain person. I do have that left brain person inside. So a right brain person, the artistic type, sees the big picture, when a predominantly left person they're oriented to every detail. Okay. I've talked about that before when we have situations going on politically or otherwise, and I get so frustrated that some people will take each individual scenario and they'll dissect it. And I sit here going, aren't you guys looking at it collectively? Like, all of these situations is a bigger picture. There is a bigger picture, and everyone gets so caught up in the details of the small one. It's like there's a bigger picture. I've made that statement before 1,000 times. So this is interesting to read this. Once again, this goes back to the right brain part, where we see the outcome and then we find things to validate what we see. Okay. All right. So anyway, perception. Right brain people do not tend to fool around with details. As a balanced person with how many times have I given you a concept on here and I said I don't really remember the details? I don't do that. I get the general lesson out of something, or the general storyline. I don't remember the details because that to me is unimportant. So anyway, right-brained people do not tend to fool around with details, as a balanced person with plenty of time or a perfectionist left-brainer would do. Right-brainers need to know what's going on before executing a simple job, otherwise the task will make no sense. They need to have an idea of the whole project in order for their contribution to fit in. They will work like a monk, paying attention to details if and when they find a passion or connection for their duty. That is my trigger. I have to feel connected in order to really put in, They can create masterpieces. Then they create masterpieces. The dominant right brain tendency is to step back when it's time to execute work as a team where they don't know anyone and they have to find their spot under pressure. Feeling at ease in a new role takes some time and self-awareness, but if they know their capabilities and limits very well, they can jump in with 2 feet and make an excellent and respected leader. They know where they're going in life, so they show a sense of direction because they have that capacity to seeing clearly what's going on. They perceive the big picture naturally, and that's what matters the most. As long as the final result makes sense and works well, they can live with their minor defects. Like I said, predominantly left brain personalities' point of view and perception is oriented to detail. Okay, we have a few more of these. I'm going to have to keep going. Okay, now the 8th commonality, I guess, for the right brain personality is labeled expression. Right brain personalities are about spontaneity. Left brain personalities are about manner, moral, ethic, code. Here's where I'm very balanced. I can already see I'm very balanced in this one because I see both of these. Right brainers tend to have integrity, to be transparent and honest with themselves. I'm extremely honest with myself. That is one of the things that I'm most proud of. These are highly regarded qualities, but they do have their downside and can be easily fooled and manipulated if they are not well balanced from their left brain side. On another hand, they are direct. I'm very direct. I can be very direct. They are direct, firm, and sometimes lack diplomacy. This is irritating for pure left brainers. To protect themselves, predominant right brainers have to think twice before reacting or directing their actions. They can take several years of training. This can take several years of training. Right brainers' professions, careers, or domestic lives are sometimes delayed compared to the majority due to the lack of self-control viewed as immaturity. Now that's where my left brain took over, and that's because of joining the military right out of high school. Automatically going to a responsible job. It was pretty much set in stone, but I sit here and I wonder sometimes if I wouldn't have gone into the military. I was a very left brain person as a child, but I'm wondering, I see some of these characteristics, I'm wondering what my life would have been like, Some of that was actually just basically choices I made without putting a lot of thought into it. So anyway, right brainers, professions, careers, domestic lives. Well, there it is right there. Domestic lives. I haven't married, They're sometimes delayed compared to the majority due to the lack of self-control viewed as immaturity. They can even be mistakenly labeled as mental disease by the medical system, such as ADHD or bipolar. Now, that's very interesting, and I've always wanted to link empaths and feeling people like that and find some sort of study, if it's not out there already, to how many of them are diagnosed as bipolar. I was. At some point, somebody tried to tell me I was bipolar. I'm not bipolar, okay? But I know a lot of people who have had somebody tell them that they were bipolar, they had ADHD and such, who tend to be right-brained type people, and I think that that's really interesting. Which would actually have something to do with chemical imbalance, but not really chemical imbalance. They're talking about, their brain dominance, and that, I'm sure that there's something out there that probably links brain dominance with a chemical disorder. I don't know. So anyway, they have to program their brain to think and behave like a left brain person, not to act like a fool. These are right brain people they're talking about. Their excess of energy needs to be redirected in their favor, not for their self-destruction. That's been huge in my life. I've had huge energy. I used to use it against myself. And now that I flip the switch and look at things from a different point of view, which is exactly what you can visualize in that visual imagery, flip that switch, look at things from a different perspective, okay? And in doing that, maybe start working on balancing. Anyway, predominantly left brain personality expressions is manner, moral, ethic, code. If you're strong on the left side, a lot of times that becomes more important than the actual thing that's going on. It's like how somebody expresses themselves matters more than what they're actually saying, or and I've seen that as well. So that's more of an extreme. Okay, so number 9 in commonalities: relationship and networking. For a right brain person, connection and dedication For a left brain person, it's agreement and commitment. Oh, this part shows me that me in dating world is definitely right brain. Okay, so like we said earlier, you cannot convince pure right brainers. They will resonate or not with what you're trying to sell them. They will choose. Since they tend to believe in themselves, I love that part, rather than put their faith and trust and belief in a belief system, they are in tune with their higher self. Wow, this is me. The center of the universe is inside. They give without counting, so they can expect the same from you. If you gave them a favor expecting one in return, right-brainers will see you as a manipulator. Let me tell you, I have seen that and experienced that in my life. The first impression is important for them, but if you twist your personality to seduce them at first encounter, they will eventually figure it out and drop a relationship with you. Now, I've had that happen a lot as well. They start relationships based on affinities, not on personal interest. That's interesting. Okay, so predominantly left brain person's relationship and networking, like I said, is agreement and commitment. Basically, I believe that means people being on the same page or committing to a scenario, even if they're not resonating to each other. I believe that that's what it means for a right brainer, has to really resonate in certain ways a lot more, and the connection. Now, that's how I read it because that's how I feel it. So we're going to talk about number 10. How much time do I have? Oh, my goodness. Number 10 is philosophy, passion, emotion, and eccentricity. Passion is philosophy for right brainers, passion, emotion, eccentricity. For left brainers, conviction, persuasion, and conformity. Okay, passion and emotion are part of a right brainer's daily life. They are two different feelings, but they each have the same energy. They're driven, and their ego can sometimes be big and loud. Predominant right brain persons know how to leave their footprint in your memories, so you will never forget them. Once you know a right brain person, they will influence your life forever. As extroverts, they have lots of charisma. As introverts, the secrets lying inside will amaze you if you dare to take time to discover the mysterious human being behind the shell. Right brainers tend to not follow mainstream movements. They like alternative movements. Hippies, goths, punks, grunge, and other similar communities are mostly composed of rebel, predominant right brainers. They want their voice to be heard, and to make sure they will avoid being suppressed. If they are too shy or disempowered to speak out loud, they will use other shocking and effective ways to be noticed. They know how to express themselves with fashion, to say the least. Okay, now predominant left brain personality, their philosophy is conviction, persuasion, conformity. Now, when I first started off talking about like the tattoo thing, piercings, all that kind of stuff, there it is right there. That shows how a left brainer might not think like a right brainer in that case and be judgmental. It's because we look at life differently in that way. Now, that's where I used to be more left brained, and I would be just as judgmental toward people who express themselves in certain ways. Now, I feel like I express myself on in my own ways as well. It's not about conformity to me. I'm not going to just conform because it fits into other people's visualizations of who I should be. And that's how right brainers think. It's very important for them to be expressive. Now, when it comes to like the tattooing thing, I keep bringing that up because that's what started this whole mindset. It is, a lot of tattoo people I know, that is their expression. They'll put their lives on there. It's an artistic thing, and I see it that way as well. I don't see it as the chain gang kind of, whatever. But that's what drove this whole thing for me to start this whole thing in the first place, was that part of it right there, was in some cases judging somebody based on those kind of scenarios, like a tattooed person or a pierced person or somebody who dresses a certain way or whatever. It's because a left brain dominant person can't understand. So they put a label. Okay. This is understanding. Reading this really, really, really makes me understand even more why I see things differently than a completely dominated left brain personality type does. So that I'm glad that part came up because, like I said, that's what started my whole thought process on this. Okay, number 11 is exploration. For a right brainer, it's risk, unknown mystery, and challenge. For a left brainer, it's comfort zone, security, and status quo. How much time do I have left? Okay. About 10 more minutes. We've got time to finish. Good. Okay, for right-brainers are not comfortable in routine. Now that's where my left brain kicks in because I'm comfortable with routine. Okay. I'm really, really loving the show, by the way, because like I said, when I talk on the show, a lot of times I'm understanding things more about myself because I'm hearing it more coming into my ears and I'm explaining myself to myself. I'm really getting to know myself a lot by reading this. So I'm glad this was a show. I hope you are as well. So right-brainers are not comfortable in routine. Although schedules simplify life, it is important to diversify life experiences, and right-brainers are pretty good at walking outside the beaten track and even tend to enjoy being stalled in the mud. Many of them attract major problems early in life. Curiously, they almost always manage to get out fine, ending up with an exciting life and overall have lots of interesting memories to share. That tendency to explore the unknown and mysteries is part of their life's destiny. They were born to discover and grow out of pain. I like that. As difficult as their life path can sometimes seem, it's very rewarding for those who make it through. Predominant right-brainers are great life masters and coaches. Now, that part right there, I've always explained, like people who get into the paranormal world, what I see happening, or people who end up being like very inspirational, whatever, is that they've had a reason in life to go deep down within. A lot of times if a person doesn't really have that reason to go deep down within, they're going to stay a little bit on the surface. Now, some could call it shallow. I used to judge that. Now I understand that sometimes people don't know to go deep within because they don't really have that painful experience or that right-brained push to figure things out in life, to take them deep inside, to become a deeper person or whatever. Okay, so I'm starting to really understand a lot of this. That's why judging people, if you're not living their lives, is so important not to do. So important. And understanding, this is huge to understand your kids, by the way. If you have kids that it just seems like they're making bad choices and they fit any of these, understand they've got to live their life. They have to. They're going by what's comfortable with them. The worst thing in the world is to force somebody to live a life or do different things that doesn't resonate with them because their whole brain is oriented in a different way. Their life path is different. So are you understanding the connection here? So anyway, that was exploration. And like I said, for a left brainer, the commonalities for exploration is comfort zone, security, status quo. Okay, now the last one they have listed here for commonalities of a right brain personality, or commonalities in general, is going to be number 12, skills. We right brainers tend to be creativity, psychic abilities, supra senses is what it shows under psychic abilities, where left brainers, analysis, mental abilities, the 5 senses. Okay, so finally, the main characteristic that distinguishes predominant right brainers from left brainers is their unique abilities. I like that. I feel unique now. While left brainers view credibly in school diplomas and certification, right brainers find true expertise and experience. Okay, that's interesting right there because even me learning a lesson, like my dad will say this, sorry daddy, but over a lifetime, and not just, I'm using this as an example, but I've heard it through people I work with, everything else, and I'll always go back and I'll give them my experiences, is they'll give me lessons. They'll tell me what's going on. We had a family situation that had to do with one of my siblings and me, and I was told over and over, this is what's happening, blah, 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 but when I finally got it through my head, it's because I had to experience it myself. Okay, so that's a definite thing with me. A lot of times your kids, that's a big example of telling your kids, like not understanding. It's like, why don't they just listen to me? Why do they always have to learn these lessons on their own? Well, because that's a right brain personality type. I'm not going to completely take it in. It's always going to be a question in my mind. I won't truly learn the lesson. And I've realized that. I can feel that. There are different times in my life where I would not have learned the lesson and actually learned it as a lesson if I would have just followed and believed what somebody told me. I have to learn those lessons for myself. And in learning those lessons, I come up with so many experiences and lessons in that's very important for me to learn on my own. Keep that under consideration when you're talking about your kids. Okay. So once again, while left brainers view credibility in school diplomas and certification, right brainers find true experience or true expertise and experience. They were either born with talent or went through lots of life lessons to develop extraordinary capacities. Lots of healers and athletes were born with amazing skills. As well, artists and inventors endured a long training period before displaying tremendous creative abilities. So it's both. It's likely that each person has a gift to show to the world. You've been exposed to a diversity of people and situations in this life to find what you resonate with. One must accept to stand up for himself, follow the inner voice, and trust it. Right-brainers, pure and predominant, are excellent at figuring out what their life mission is and will manage to express their gift sooner or later. Okay, so left-brainers, don't try to suppress your right-brainers. Let them come up with that life purpose on their own, because that's how they'll excel. If you're a left-brain person and you keep thinking, I need to put my kid through, this school to be this accountant or whatever is a left-brain personality type, they're not going to do well with that, or they're always going to feel an inner turmoil. They're not going to feel where they are, where they're supposed to be. That's why I think it's important to allow your kids, this is my personal opinion, allow your kids to express what they need to express, because their left brain or their right brain is telling them like where their interests lie, what they're good at, what type of person they're going to be. Ultimately in life, it's going to lead them to be their happiest. If you've got a kid, then years and years and years later, they're living, the life that you've given them. If it's not the right brain type, and that's the other way around as well, then they're not truly going to be in touch with what, they're not going to excel like they would if they followed their heart and their brain. Okay, so anyway, predominantly left brain person's skills is analysis, mental abilities, which is the 5 senses. So again, keep in mind that we're all using a bit of both brain sides, and predominance is just a general tendency. You may be a natural right brainer, but behaving like a left brainer. Each individual person has its peculiarities. Okay, so how much time do I have left here? Okay, we only have a few more minutes. My cat needs to leave me alone here. Okay, so what I typed up here was common jobs, and these are just a few, and these are common jobs for dominant brain personalities. Left brain dominant people, and I got this from work.chron.com, common jobs, left brain people. Scientist, lawyer, civil engineer, accountant, computer programmer. So are you understanding, though, why those would be a good career choice, or why those are common? There are commonly left brain dominant people in those fields because it comes natural to them. That's how they feel. That's how they learn, and that's what they're good at. Okay. Right brain dominant people. And there are so many more as well, and I was going to list them, but then I thought, you know what? I'm going to go on a site and list what they say. I don't want to get it wrong. Right brain dominant people, and I found this on futureofworking.com, careers for right brain people. Graphic designers, counselor or psychologist, which that one makes sense to me. But when I first read it, I was surprised that they listed it under a right brain. I assumed that they would list that under a left brain, because that's a lot of schooling, a lot of like science and such. But I love that they have it listed under right brain dominant personality, types. Interior designers. And what's interesting is that I look at my mom as more of a left brain person, but my mom is a fantastic interior designer. So now, seeing that, I'm looking at her more as balanced. So my mom's more balanced. Managers. And I think a lot of that right brain personality being good managers is that we feel with our hearts as far as we can put ourselves in other people's shoes. I look at that a lot as empathy, and having that driven, that outcome drive and such. Recreation and arts. Those are, careers that are very good for right brainers. So anyway, how much time do I have left here? Okay, wow. Okay, we did good. So I hope you got out a lot of tonight's show. I know that was a lot of information, a lot of reading and such, but I'll tell you, it opened up my mind. But my main point, once again, is to figure out, in getting to know ourselves, I'm realizing left brain, right brain is a big deal. If you feel like you're not in balance and you want to be completely balanced, or you want to tap into the other part of your brain, there was some, exercising the right side or left side of your body and all that kind of stuff. Use that as an experiment like anything else, But also the most important part of this to me is to stop judging each other based on the fact that we think differently. We live our lives differently because we see life differently. And that has to do with how much of a left brain or right brain person we are deep inside, as well as the Myers-Briggs personality typing and everything else that makes us unique. So guess what, people? We are all unique. We are all so individual. It is kind of dumb at this point to judge people. And when you go back and you just simply judge a person based on their book cover, they've got tattoos, they must be this, I'm going to roll my eyes at them. Are you kidding? I look deeper. And that's what I'm suggesting for people to do. Understand that everybody does things for their own personal reasons. And we're also individual and unique. Judgment really has no place in this world anymore. It really doesn't. We have enough to deal with in this world to sit there and judge each other based on non-threatening or non-harmful things that we see in each other. Just try to understand a little better. Maybe being around different people will help us tap into that side of our personalities. I'm not saying suddenly hang out with tattooed people so that you can want a tattoo. It's not about that. It's about understanding a little more so that we can put ourselves in other people's shoes. Even if we understand the other side, if we are one personality dominated, one brain side dominant personality type, and we're fine with that, understanding that other side, that other dominated personality, brain personality, whatever I'm trying to say, is key. Okay, so anyway, stay tuned for Tiffany Lewis on Be the Change. Thank you for listening to my 2-hour ranting. I hope you got a lot out of it. I will try to post all of this on my Facebook page under the events and such. And I will talk to you next Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on clearsourceradio.com. Thank you guys, and good night.